Before you begin, consider this. Watch until the end. The final detail reframes everything you've read so far and invites a second look at what you believed you understood. Chapter 1. The Quiet Border. I learned to read the map not in lines and numbers, but in quiet deviations. The way the fence sagged where the wind kept time with the earth. The way the night air tasted metallic for reasons no weather report would admit. They called the land a corridor they would close with a single command if the world pressed enough. I was there to document the geography of fear, to watch the border between two countries become less like a line and more like a breath held too long. The first signs were dawns that did not arrive with birds but with something else. Something that moved without feet and left footprints only the rain could verify. The border guard spoke in clipped phrases, as if each syllable was a weapon, a shield, a prayer. They warned us, keep the cameras rolling, keep your senses sharpened. The land itself had a memory, and memory, here, came with teeth. I kept telling myself I could turn away, but the road kept pulling me forward, toward a town that should have been asleep but wasn't. Not when the air carried the metallic tang of something that didn't belong to the sky. If you listen to the quiet, you can hear the first whispers of the thing that lives in the space beyond the lights. The way the night seems to adjust itself. The way shadows seem to gather like reluctant witnesses. The border felt less a boundary and more a negotiation with a sleeping giant, and we were interrupting its dreams. Chapter 2. The Crossing. The plan was simple on paper. A narrow ferry, a handful of locals, and a single guide who knew every alley of the dead city on the far shore. In practice, it was a choreography of fear. The guide moved with a measured calm, eyes always scanning the sky as if the air itself might decide to carry a signal we would misinterpret as mercy or mercy as a trap. The river between the two halves of the map wasn't water so much as a memory you could walk through. It carried the wreckage of boats, the echoes of conversations that died without answer, the occasional reflection of a moon that refused to witness the moment. We slipped onto the river's surface, and the city rose like a broken shell behind us, a relic of a civilization that had learned to forget its own alarms. The monsters were not seen at first. They were announced by sound, the tremor in the trees, the sudden hush of crickets that would not sing, and then the soft, almost polite rustle of something that moved with the same gravity as the earth. They didn't rush. They settled in, as if the world needed to remember their presence before it could pretend nothing happened. The guide whispered a warning I barely heard, and I pointed the camera toward the darkness, hoping to capture proof that would outlive fear. Chapter 3. The Ground Between. The crossing left us with more questions than answers. The monsters did not strike with obvious hunger or rage. They arrived as a chorus of subtle signals, the ground choosing its own pace, the air thick with a scent that was not quite rotting and not quite rain, a distant thrum that resonated in your bones. We reached a cluster of buildings that had once stood as an argument against time. Doors blocked by rubble, windows like blank eyes, and inside, a faint glow from a generator that stubbornly refused to die. The guide dared to enter, claiming the structure could tell us what the border did to those who waited on the wrong side of history. Inside, the walls hummed with a voice that wasn't a voice at all, a spread of memories pressed into plaster and brick. Every room offered a different version of the same story. Those who crossed failed to remember what they left behind, and those left behind found a way to forget who they used to be. I kept a distance between my own fear and the lens. The camera, to me, had always been a shield, a way to objectify danger so it wouldn't object to me. But here danger wore a mask of familiarity, a familiar street, a familiar cough in the night, a familiar silhouette that seemed to be waiting for permission to step into the light. Chapter 4. Echoes in the Ruins. We found a town that did not stand so much as lean, a place that still clung to a routine even as the routine turned against itself. There were radios everywhere, some alive with static, some silent as graves. A man, or perhaps a memory of a man, spoke through one of them in a voice that sounded like gravel in water. He spoke of a path, a route not mapped on any paper, a route that would keep us tethered to something human. The monsters favored noise and hesitation, the kind of sounds you make when you're trying not to think about consequences. But they also seemed to hate precision, the way a sharp motion could cut through the murk and reveal a truth you would rather not know. So we moved with careful, uncertain steps, guided by the rhythm of a city that had learned to survive by listening to the wrong things. In the deepest pocket of ruin, a mirror lay on the floor, cracked, reflecting not our faces but the fear we carried in the back of our throats. It showed me a version of myself that didn't look quite right, like a photograph that had absorbed rain and memory at the same time. I felt the shiver of something watching from beyond the glass, something not quite tethered to the world we remembered. Chapter 5. The Weight of Sound. The most unsettling thing about the border was not the monsters themselves, but the way fear traveled through it. Sound became a weapon and a trap. A heartbeat could become a beacon. A laugh could collapse into silence as if a switch had been flipped somewhere beneath the ground. Night after night we listened for the passing of the creatures, listening for a pattern in their absence. In those hours, you could hear the land choosing sides. The guides argued in muted tones about a last best route, a way to reach a place where the air would not harbor the heavy memory of what had happened to the world beyond the fence. I began to doubt my own memory, too. The more I recorded, the more I forgot the simplest details. The color of someone's eyes, the exact sound of a child's cry, a name I never bothered to learn because memory, here, was a currency you spent at your own risk. The river, the buildings, the quiet highway to nowhere, all of them whispered a single truth. The border is not a barrier so much as a choice you make every day to stay alive in a place that refuses to stay still. Chapter 6. What Remains When It Breathes. The ending came not with a blaze, but with a decision, to step back into the light or to watch the light come to you. We found a way through a corridor of trees where the wind seemed to carry a language I almost recognized, a language not spoken by any ordinary creature, but by the earth itself, as if the soil had learned to whisper in a dialect of fear and endurance. I am not certain what I saw then, only what I felt. A presence that did not chase us so much as accept us into its story, a creature or a consequence that we could not outrun but might negotiate with, if we kept walking and refused to look away. The last image I captured was a smear of light on water, not quite a reflection, not quite a memory, but a record that something from beyond had learned to watch us with the same patient curiosity that we used to watch it. When the dawn finally arrived, there were no songs to greet it, only the careful, measured breaths of the survivors who had learned to live with what they wore on their skins. The fatigue of fear as if it were a second skin, the ache of knowing the border might always remember us more than we remember it. If you found this tale compelling, please subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, leave a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and pass the story along to others. Your support helps this channel keep telling stories that linger after the screen goes dark.